features of water in my cellar.
Did you? Why?
When that hurricane went through.
How did you get out of it? I don't know.
I got mine in places. Back down there began. I could have swam in the backyard.
Yeah.
But we needed the water. I'm considering the pipe from where it is out to the road. It even knocked out the drain there.
This was Saturday. A friend of mine's house over in Emerald Lakes.
Here, Lori. I think that's it, right?
Right, yeah, okay.
Let's just check these things. Yes.
Yeah.
We got them all now.
Fish nets.
That'll be interesting. But don't let her get a tan while she's.
Yes. Every month. I
But it'll
do
be
it.
like design.
I had this one. Last month I did this. This month I'm doing another one again. So I did all they know is. I have to talk to her about it. Okay. I actually.
So I know that I won't give it back to you.
Yeah.
I thought last time it was stuck with something else.
Oh, okay. No. I want to talk to her about it.
Okay.
How do we get the state police? What is doing by the state police?
Yeah, I think there was an invitation to them.
Well, they make it. Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Mike,
Mike, will you get them their seats? I believe they're gonna probably put you right up.
Right here, sir.
In the back somewhere.
Oh.
How are you?
There should be seats back there open, if you wanted to be in the back. There are some seats on the back wall.
Yeah.
in
Yeah,
town.
but still, it's right past the bridge. You still it's the meeting.
No,
There's another.
same one with baby.
But, I just thought,
I don't want to see.
Yeah, that's what I was like,
the
oh.
water runs, the water runs down the sidewalk, but it's even.
Oh, no, that's all right.
Laying down, laying.
Alrighty,
The
Going back to
one
clock.
on my side right now is fine.
the meeting is now called to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Oh, okay, just a second. Can you all hear me in the back?
Yes.
On mute, and recording. Okay. Okay, we're multitasking tonight. We're actually doing this meeting in person, and we also do the Zoom meeting. So sometimes we'll be a little slow moving forward, just to make sure that those online are getting a clear understanding of what's going on, and at the same time, we're answering some of those requests that are being put out. Before we have our meeting, I'd like to go ahead and I'll set the agenda. As you can see, if you have a copy of our agenda, it has the public comment. However, we have individuals who wish to speak, and so we'll ask those individuals who have their name on our roster to speak as according to their sign-in. I have some rules, meeting rules that I'd like to present to our audience. If you notice, our chairs are positioned to maintain social distance. Please do not move them. A message that I'd like to at all present to our audience, unless you're speaking publicly and you're at least 6 feet away from each other. We understand this is an important issue for you. It is for us too. We want to ensure safety and improve borough service. This meeting is not for us to make a decision. It's an investigation piece of it, and so we can exchange ideas. If we don't have an immediate answer for you, we'll definitely do some research and we'll get back to you. We want to make sure that we can hear everyone that's a part of our borough. And we're asking residents who wish to voice their opinion or concerns to do so. If your name is not on the list and at the end of our meeting you wish you have something to say based on what has been presented before, you'll have just about 2 to 3 minutes to speak. The discussion tonight will be limited to the discussion of police coverage in the borough. You'll speak from the podium just to make sure that everyone can hear you. And if you have something to say and someone already speak about it, please try not to repeat the same thing. And we'll try to make sure that we address all your concerns. Any questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Whoever comes to the podium, can they mention their name and their address, please?
Yes, please. When you approach the podium to speak, please give us your name and your address so we can make sure that we have your accurate information. Any other questions? Okay. At this time, I'll turn this meeting over to the mayor of Pocono. Mayor Penn.
So I'm going to speak through the mic here. As Claudette just said, we want to hear borough residents' opinions tonight because we want to do what's best for the community. one of the points of this meeting is to hear your concerns and get more information, as she said, and it's meant to be a discovery or investigative stage before any deliberations start. So I just want to preface tonight's work session with some comments about the origination of this discussion about the regional police. So at the July Police Commission meeting, we discussed Mount Pocono's contribution to the regional police's operational budget. The commission does not approve a budget per se, as our resident quote newspaper reports. It approves to send a budget to the municipalities for approval. Only the municipalities can approve a police commission budget. If they approve, they send a resolution saying so. If they don't, they needn't do anything. If 3 out of 5 municipalities do not approve the budget, the previous year's budget is the operational budget. That was the case for the 2020 budget. Mount Pocono did not approve their suggested increase and proceeded as outlined in the contract to pay at 2019 rates. So this was the discussion that began this discussion. It precipitated a tense conversation in executive session at the commission, inappropriately in executive session and in public later too. The commission suggested I ask council how it proposes to handle the issue from here. Then several commissioners suggested Mount Pocono leave the regional police department. My job as mayor is to report these discussions back to council. I say that all the time. I report borough happenings to council. That's actually in the borough code. I did so at a work session, but nothing was deliberated despite local reporting in our local newspaper. What did happen is that the regional police contacted several residents and told them we were planning to leave regional after they suggested we leave. Then at this month's meeting, another illegal executive session was held, this time suggesting that they were going to sue Mount Pocono for following the contract. So we were told the contract doesn't matter because it wasn't done like this before. This issue for Mount Pocono is about cost. We spend roughly 50% of our budget on police services. Costs keep rising yearly. In fact, they were proposed to increase 10% last year before we insisted on a 0% increase, despite a surplus of $600,000 in last year's police budget. Regardless of one's opinion on the matter, civil debate should occur, not shouting over Mount Pocono representatives or vice versa, and mocking the borough for saying we couldn't afford an additional $14,000 per year. Also at the August meeting, it was stated that Mount Pocono receives more services than it pays for, and that we should contribute even more than we do now. That was just last week. If that occurs, that translates to a tax increase for residents of this borough. I think that's unacceptable, especially given we're having a tough time getting our ordinance enforced as it is. So we're here to start to discuss our options, not necessarily to pull out, but to hear your concerns and opinions. There are options. We could reduce our hours with regional. We could reduce our contribution to regional. We could withdraw completely and look to state police coverage like the majority of Monroe County. That would cost us $0. The two options we discussed at the last work session, based on the suggestions from the commission to take back, were, so in year one, per the resolution council passed and set forward, Mount Pocono is paying 2019 rates and not the 2% increased budget. The borough was budgeted by the commission to pay 12.13% of the regional contribution from municipalities, amounting to $746,000 roughly. Instead, we're paying $731,000 roughly, a difference of about $14,000. So, one of our options is to do just what the resolution says. And I'm speaking, these numbers I'm about to speak to were effective August 3rd. They were based on calculations at that point relative to what services were provided to us by the department on August 3rd. So effective August 3rd, we could reduce our coverage by about 0.35 of a PPU. That's about 3.5 hours a week or a half hour a day. And that's an exact offset of the difference in the 2019 versus the 2020 rates. At this point in the year, 7 months in, as of August 3rd, we were roughly 71 hours under budget. I believe now we're 75. But 71 comes to about 12 weeks or 3 months at this savings rate. Over the course of the year, we have to come in under budget by about 180 hours total. That would leave us with 109 hours to cover in about 5 months, a little less than 45 minutes per day that we'd be losing in coverage. So the second option that we discussed was a larger reduction than the resolution called for, 1 PPU. And that would be about 10 hours per week, saving us an additional $27,000 over the 14. Then after that, in year 2, we discussed where we stood and by December this year, giving notice to regional that we might withdraw, or we decided that we would be withdrawing from the commission and terminating our contract with them for police services. We've noticed, we talked about state police and that we've noticed an increased presence on our state roads over the course of the last year, and we could formalize PSP coverage in the borough as they're already patrolling Paradise Township right next to us, and informally the state routes, 946, 11, 186. Arguably, Pennsylvania State Police is the best state police force in the country. And PSP already covers Paradise, Middle Smithfield, Price, Hamilton, Delaware, Water Gap, Route 380, Route 33, and I-80. They cover 11 out of 20 municipalities in the county, about 81,000 people, 311 square miles. They do a good job, and it's something we should look at. And we're not there yet, but it's a discussion. We would work out details with them, but looking at our current call volume, we'd likely have full-time coverage in the borough with backup in Paradise and with Troop N in Bartonsville. They patrol by zone. Regional police do not do that. We also get the added benefit of speed radar enforcement, which regional can't do by law, ideally helping us with speeding through downtown and on some of our problem side roads. State police doesn't enforce ordinances per se, but we have the same issue with regional at the moment. We're not getting enforcement of some of our ordinances. So we had talked too, in this instance, we want to beef up our zoning codes enforcement department and could enforce codes ourselves with the benefit of the revenue from enforcement. With that option, we could consider forming a hybrid department with state police, purchasing hours from a neighboring department, ideally building a community policing department for codes enforcement here. These are just some suggestions. There are grants available for community policing hiring and training through the Department of Justice. And I had mentioned that I'd reach out to some of them for grant potential. We have a couple state police representatives here to help answer questions in the event some come up. Definitely, it would be nice to save our borough $750,000 per year, and I don't think anyone would contest that. And that's, in that case, we'd be able to address our year-on-year budget shortfalls and some of the long-running problems in the borough. The point of us being here tonight is to hear your concerns and to do what's best for the borough. So with that, I think over to public comment.
Okay. I have 2 questions for you, Mayor, if I could.
Sure.
Okay, the first question is, the total cost of Pocono Regional is $731,000 a year.
Give him a mic.
The total cost of the Pocono Regional Police Force is $731,000 a year.
That's what we're paying now, yes.
That's the total
That's
cost.
police services. That does not include pension, and but that's for police services, yes.
Should we include the pension?
We can, but we would, even if we left regional, we would have pension contributions as well,
Every year?
every year.
Okay. And my second question was, how many hours do we get for the $731,000 a year?
Let me look that up. I'll come back to you on that.
Okay. Mike, is 24/7?
Not only do we have to pay the regional police, you have to take into consideration, we pay $2,300 a month rent.
No, get English money.
Mike.
You also have to take into consideration, not only paying the regional police, we're paying $2,300 a month towards the mortgage on that building, if I'm correct. So that's what puts us over the million. I figured out the $1,076,000 that we have to pay a year. That's the police and to pay the mortgage on that building. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to our speakers that we have for tonight. Mike Holzer.
I'm waiting to hear about the state police. I see two of them in the back. But I tell you what, thank you very much. I'm a resident of this borough since 1977 and a resident of the Pocono Mountains since 1961. The financial benefits of the state police as our law enforcement agency are tremendous. With a little less than 50% of our budget for regional police, can you imagine what that money can do for the community? Road paving, recreational facilities for our children, better zoning and code enforcement. We can improve the quality of life in our community with those funds without raising taxes. If you believe the regional police is our best choice, then I am going to be blunt, and if I upset you, tough. Regarding the regional police, you are going to hear tonight that the borough wants to defund the regional police. That statement is coming from people who are ignorant of the facts. You are going to hear how bad the state police are in coverage, and that again is from ignorance. And those who state that opinion do so out of ignorance. In the last 25 years, the borough has had no experience with the state police, and if people want to state information from 25 years ago, that is just plain ignorant, again. I consider Facebook commentaries about the regional police to be an insult to the intelligence of the human race, and those making comments on Facebook, as I have stated in the past in many meetings, are morons. It is the ignorance of our taxpayers who think the regional police are doing a good job. Really? Chief Wagner stated the regional will enforce the burning ban. When? Chief Wagner stated the regional will enforce the fireworks ordinance. I guess we all know what happened there when it was stated that he should be fired. The regional police have yet to control speeding on Route 611. That's a very good enforcement of speeders. It was stated in previous meetings that regional does not have enough borough budget hours. Who cares about the speeders? The businesses on Route 611 complain to the borough. Why? Regional police should be ticketing speeders in great numbers. When? The regional police, when confronted multiple times for various illegal activities, stated it is not on their priority list. At the last Pocono Mountain Regional Police Commission meeting, a commissioner made a statement to our mayor of what crimes do you want to put on a priority list that the regional police will not enforce because of the budgets? Interesting for that question. What crimes do you want to put on a priority list that the regional police will not enforce? The regional police personnel investigated the victims of a terrorist threat, yet no charges have been filed against the person who made the threat. The threat was made in an open meeting with not one but two regional police officers present. The lack of transparency was brought up multiple times during police commission meetings, and it's still not a concern. Why? And we cannot forget about the illegal parking in the borough, but I guess if your business belonged to a state representative who is now a senator, you do not want to bite the hand that gets you some grants. And in this audience, how many have a personal financial interest with the regional police? Is that really serving the residents of the borough? Interesting. If you happen to be a fan of the Pocono Mountain Regional Police, and I annoy you, so sorry. Next time, get your facts right. Thank you.
Next speaker will be Senator Mario Scrivelli.
Madam Speaker, if you mind, I would like to be last. I know I was not aware where to sign. I was one of the original members of the regional police, and I'd like to hear some comments, and then I might be able to answer them. So if you make that one exception, I'd like to be the last person to speak.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Robin Murray?
Hi, Robin Murray, 1371 Pocono Boulevard, Mount Pocono. First of all, I didn't know that if we were talking, I thought just in case we wanted to talk, I signed up. But anyway, I'm here, I'm gonna state my case.
Robin, put the mic down toward, yeah. You wanna take your mask off?
Better?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Okay, Robin Murray, 1371 Pocono Boulevard, Mount Pocono. The reason I'm concerned is, one, I came to the meeting last month and we discussed letting all of our residents know, and I don't see where any of that happened. I mean, you can put an article on Facebook, but the majority of our residents are not on Facebook. They're not on Zoom. What about putting out something in the paper? What about passing out a postcard that every resident knows what's going on? I made a phone call yesterday to 3 residents that don't have a clue this is happening. So for me, this decision is a big decision. We need police coverage. Whatever you guys you choose to do, I think that should be decided by our residents. They need to be made aware of what's going on. I think what you're doing here right now and the way you're doing it is kind of quietly.
Robin, we're not making any decision tonight, and
I know that, I understand.
Right, and we also have it on our website too. It's also on our website.
But not everyone is online. You know, there's this old saying, like my son used to say, Mom, you can't always put everything online. People still open the newspaper, okay? I put it out in the newspaper because he wanted me to. And I got more calls because people are still reading the newspaper. They're not online. They're not on Zoom. They're not on Facebook. So if we're making this big of a decision, our residents need to be included. Like we said, let's have something outside in the field. Let all of our residents speak, help make this decision. But I feel you're doing this with a handful of people.
And Robin, one of the reasons why we chose not to have this outside, we had a disagreement, but not a disagreement, we had an issue sometime earlier this year or last year. We got threatened about people about bringing pitchfork and all that stuff. So when we're outside, we're in the open. And we know what happened in the past. We know what happened in the past at Russ Township, even inside of our building. So if we go outside, we're putting ourselves at risk. So we have to also maintain our safety. This is the reason why we could not do that.
Okay, but I still think all residents should be made aware of this possible change. That's my biggest thing. And the other question I have is, if state police do come in, how do we know that they are free? I mean, how do we know, where are they based out of? Are they going to be coming from their barracks in Rimrock? Yes, they service Caribase Township, but if something happens, where are they coming from? That's my only question. You know, there's questions people want to know.
Okay, and we have our state police here, and we're going to call them to give us some.
The new state police,
Ron?
Robin, from what I can understand, I get a new.
Right. Yeah, Ron, can you use the mic, please?
Take a mask off.
Trying to get it to come down.
From what I understand, everybody in town is getting a newspaper from Mr. Ford called the Borough. Everything that goes on in these meetings in our work session, Mr. Ford records and puts in the paper, and everybody's mailbox is getting one.
Yeah.
Now, we have 3,000 people in Mount Pocono that don't know how to read.
I have to disagree with you, Ron.
We do
He's not an
also
official
have-
newspaper for us, so we can't rely on him to communicate with our
And you know,
residents.
my feeling on that is, okay, I do not get it at my house. I think I get it at one of the offices. But there are going to be people that are going to say, I'm not going to read this newspaper. Am I correct?
Right.
Okay.
But we
So I
al-
think it should be handled just a little bit differently.
We also have Janine, who is always here for our council meetings, and she does report for the Pocono Plateau. which is a free newspaper here.
Again, not everyone reads that. But if you take a postcard and put it in everyone's mailbox and say there's gonna be a work session or there's gonna be a meeting, there's some people that don't know what's going on. I've talked to them.
Robin, everything that we do in this borough has to come down to a vote, and even if we just want to advertise, it's the confusion about the money pieces of it. So for getting postcards in the mail to get out to the resident, it will be an issue because of cost. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying, and it would definitely reach, the residents, but it also comes down to cost.
And then the other thing as far as cost, why can't we cut corners in other places?
We were.
Well, we're already trying to to pay.
Address that.
I'm new to council this year, and to be honest with you, this budget is really tight. It's scary tight. So I could,
Okay,
we
we
look at the
understand.
budget, we would look at it monthly to cut corners.
And
Robin, for years, I've been telling the residents when I was sitting in that area, you have to go to the website, the Mount Pocono Borough website, to get the information if you're interested in the borough.
yeah,
And it seems like a lot of residents don't care, they're not on the website, and that's where you get your information, and we're trying to promote the website, you know what I mean? As one vehicle where we're trying to contact the residents, you know?
and another concern I have is our businesses, okay? Our police, whether it be state police or regional, when they're called out to Walmart 6 times a day, okay? Whether it be for fights or whether it be for shoplifting, and they're called out to ShopRite for someone with a knife, and they're called out, what's gonna happen when we have Wawa and we have all these new, why can't these businesses chip in for what they're using? You know, you're allowing these businesses in the borough, why aren't they taking a portion of this for our police? Why should we take it all?
We've discussed that.
Well, that's something that really should be,
We have been.
you know, you're coming into our town and you want the police there 10 times a day, then you should chip in.
They should pay for period.
They should pay. And I mean, that's something that could be considered.
We
We had all the business owners in here.
have considered that before, and we're bound by some
Because when-
state
yeah.
law, but, that ties our hands together. But we have discussed that many times.
You know, regional sometimes is at Walmart 5, 6 times a day. You know, they're doing their job, but you're going somewhere for, you know, the same stuff over and over. They should be chipping in.
Okay.
That's all I have to say for now. Thank you.
Robin, let me just ask you, if the postcard issue aside, if we did advertise else, where do you think would be a good, I mean, the record?
Yeah, I said last meeting, I'm willing to, I'll pay the cost. I just think it's fair to everyone in the borough. Like I said, I talked to 3 residents yesterday, they didn't have a clue this was going on. So they may not read Tom's newspaper, they may not, you know, be on, they don't know, they didn't know. And of course, you know, we misunderstood, I thought this was being voted on.
No.
So it's
No.
not, and I think everyone that, you know, everyone should have their chance to speak what they think should happen.
Yeah, because this is our discussion, we haven't had a discussion to be able to vote on it, so yeah, no, it's not be going on.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'll call Corporate Jason Trano, State Police. Or Sergeant? Oh, okay. Yeah. Corporal and Sergeant.
That's good. We just wanted to follow.
Yes, please.
We just want to follow up on Robin's question to try to get, she had asked where state police will be coming from in the event we have your coverage here. I think you can speak better to that than I, so.
Well, they be dispatched out of the Rimrock Drive, part of the station that's right. However, we do have assigned zones within.
They can't hear you, you have to go closer to the mic.
We do have assigned zones within the our coverage area. More than likely, it would be assigned to someone who patrols the Paradise Township area to respond here for a call.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you for your service, appreciate it. Secondly, I think I was gonna say, the Walmart thing, 6, 7 times a day, if you guys are part of the Mount Pocono Borough, are you gonna be able to do 6, 7 times a day at Walmart?
Yeah, there's a crime and occurrence at Walmart, we have to investigate,
You
yes.
have to
We
investigate on
respond there.
everything.
Every single one.
Regardless of retail theft, a fight, hit and run in the parking lot, we have to investigate all that, we be responsible.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
How will the officers be assigned to the borough?
Well, we'd have to gauge that. I looked, I did a little research, I think last year there was 5,100 police incidents for 2019, which is a significant amount for a small borough like this. We'd have to gauge it, if and when we will take over servicing the borough. How many troopers would be designated or assigned to the borough or Paradise Township. I would imagine, just in my head, probably at least 2 troopers assigned to Civil Patrol Paradise Township and Mount Pocono Borough, just based on the numbers that I saw from 2019.
What would be the response time?
Response time, let's say
Here in Barry.
it could be 5 minutes, it could be an hour and 5 minutes. It all depends on what the priority of the call or nature of the call is. It would be a crash or a crime in progress or a domestic type situation in progress. It would be as soon as possible, immediately. And if somebody is in the area, probably a 5 or 10 minute response. Now, if something, fireworks, noise complaint, or some type of disturbance, something in those lines, if somebody is obviously close and not busy on another call and other distinct priorities, we're very busy 380 out here in the wintertime, and we get accidents. Sometimes closes things up, so that could be a delay. Or same thing with Interstate 80, very highly traveled corridor in Monroe County. That would be a matter too, as far as immediate response to be tied up with a crash or an interstate closure or something of that nature.
Which is how things are assigned now, essentially. The same.
Well, it's not going to change how we
exactly.
dispatch. I mean,
Right.
obviously, if we're finding that, hey, yes, we're getting a lot of calls for police services in Mount Pocono Borough. Mount Pocono Borough could essentially become a separate zone that we would control. So initially, we start out with maybe incorporated Paradise Township. We would have to see how things would progress.
Yes, sir.
I'm hearing that because we're part of the regional and we have the state roads going through Mount Pocono, not only one road, not 611, that the police cannot, the state police cannot take over the state roads and the regional take over all of, let's say, the borough's roads. Is that true or not? In other words, can it be 2 police forces? The Pennsylvania State Police handle the state roads if there's incidents and whatever, and the regional take care of the borough roads or incidents on the borough street and so on, like Walmart or something like that. What I'm looking at is reducing the number of hours that would be required to be bought in order to cover all of 611, 940, Sterling Road, whatever. Is there a possibility that could be worked out with 2? The state police take care of the state roads and the regional take care of everything else. Now you're going to tell me it can't be
Two things here.
Yeah,
Two things. Historically, obviously, we're traveling through Mount Pocono Borough and we witness a traffic violation. We're coming across a crash. Troopers are going to handle that accordingly.
We do that now.
Which we do now.
I'm
Right?
talking the state road. They're
On any road, any township other than private property.
Right. We're being told that since we have the regional police force, that you don't respond to a crash on 611 or 196.
No, we don't. You have a
I mean,
police department that
could it be
serves.
that you do?
Could it be?
I mean, or is there some regulation that you can't do that?
Well, there are regulations state if you have a primary police force, they are responsible for handling police services in your township or borough. That's in our
So you don't, in other words, even though it's on a state road, that's still the regional priority.
Correct, but again, if we are driving through and we see a crime occurring, we would certainly handle that.
I'm not looking for
In
driving
progress
through, I'm
like
looking for something, this is the policy.
Chair.
We respond to all incidents on state roads.
They can't hear.
Yeah, Madam Chair,
Frank,
they
you
cannot hear you in the back.
Councilman Boy, you have to use the mic.
Okay.
They can't
I'll
hear.
take it, hold my hand.
Yeah.
Did you hear what I said?
No, just repeat one more time, Sonia.
Okay. What I'm looking for is a policy where the state police will handle all incidents on the state roads and the regional will handle them on all other roads. Could that be set up, or is it,
That's not the way we operate. You wouldn't be able to do
or could it be changed?
it. Would be way above my pay grade. Change something like that. It's not usually the way we operate.
Do we have to get you a higher pay
And I've
rate?
worked at many places across the state, and I've never seen anything like that work at anywhere before.
The reason I ask this question, well, the problem is you got Pocono Township.
Councilman on the board, can you put in mind?
You gotta use the mic.
Yes, please.
What's the rules on is, I see in Pocono Township where state police are on the 611 and the regional, Pocono Township's also on there, in other words, they both have. It's probably because they're their own police department, not a regional. I don't know. Why is that? That's why.
Your question is, why is Pocono Township and Pocono Regional on 611?
They have they must have a working policy where
They could have some type of mutual aid agreement. I do not know. I can't answer that.
He said Pocono Township and state police.
They both respond, and the state police work on state roads.
Well, we have to get from point A to point B.
I know, but
611 is the
I mean,
main corridor. I mean, we see a traffic violation, we'll certainly address it, but that is their primary coverage jurisdiction, 611 in Pocono Township.
I see state police, if there's a violation, be issuing tickets on these roads around here.
Sure, we would do that as well, yeah.
But yet they wouldn't cover it, is what you're telling me.
Not for primary coverage, no. Responding to incidents or accidents.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me? All right. Okay, so the mutual assistance agreement that you were just discussing is a big question for me.
Can you get that?
Oh, can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
now?
there you go.
All right. So the mutual assistance agreement, I know that if there were an issue that occurred in your area and our guys were closer and able to respond, usually they get dispatched or they get called to assist, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. My biggest question to our people, to our PD, is why is it that when we've had calls from our borough residents that they don't find a priority or they don't have a coverage, why are they not then calling you to back them up if you have a mutual agreement?
I can't answer that. But with mutual aid agreements between municipal departments.
Right.
If we get a phone call from Monroe County 911 Center or Pocono Mountain Regional or Pocono Township to assist them or handle something because they're tied up or busy or, we go, we assist them.
So that would be a policy issue that we would have to address with our personal police department, right?
I couldn't be able to answer that.
You've been on the force here for a while, I'm assuming.
I've
Right.
worked 21 years in
Okay.
Pennsylvania State
I
Police. I've been
just
stationed
figured-
here for 4 years, but I
All
was
right.
previously
Perfect.
assigned here as a supervisor.
So we recently had, I'm not gonna say we, but Paradise Township a couple of years ago had a shooting. The first responding officer there, if I'm correct, was one of Pocono Mountain Regionals, not you guys.
That's an I couldn't answer that. I couldn't answer that fairly.
I wasn't there.
I am familiar with the incident, however,
Right.
unfortunately, that was a day I was not working when I was on vacation, so I
Right.
can't answer that, who was the first.
Well, if my memory serves correct, our guys were there first. And although that's your coverage area, the mutual aid, they responded, there was a serious incident. My concern is that, again, unless we become a region for you to cover separately, other than just having us group together with Paradise, that something severe may happen here and it may be not taken care of or not responded to in an accurate amount of time. Like you said, 5 minutes to maybe an hour in 5 minutes. I've experienced your coverage through my parents who live in Jackson Township. You guys respond pretty well. There's not a very large period of time when you guys get to incidents in that area. I just feel as though we have so much that happens here in our borough that are not necessarily our borough's, I don't want to say fault, but our borough residents. We have a lot of crimes that are committed, both violent crimes and retail theft, like such a severity. What assurances that we have would be for you guys to actually respond in a quick amount of time for our people, because it's the safety of our people that we have to keep in mind.
Well, we're required to respond to almost all calls for service. Again, if it's a serious police incident, serious police matter, it's Paradise Township shooting, that would probably be minutes. A crash, some type of assault in progress, domestic, they would be a very quick response time, engaged by priority of incident types.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Gentleman in the back.
I'll wait, I was just gonna answer a couple of questions from the council, but I'll wait till I come up.
Okay. All right, any other questions for the state police? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Madam President, Sergeant, I have a question for you.
Yes.
What were you anticipating when you came up here this evening in reference to questions, answers, or whatever? Because I noticed that, I believe underneath your shirt, you're actually wearing a bulletproof vest.
Wear the uniform.
They were
Yeah.
Okay.
They need to.
Once
They
they
need
do it,
to. They can get back home to their
Just one-
families.
just a question.
They knew you were a hero, sir, that's why.
I'd like to ask Sergeant,
We have approximately, there's 100 personnel in the barracks. Would you mind if I tell you how many troopers? I'm thinking 65 patrol troopers and another 6, 7 criminal investigators on top of how many supervisors we have?
I think it's like 14.
14.
So I figure about 75 troopers between the patrol and the.
I would say
Yeah, somewhere around that.
probably 80. So I know there's 100 personnel in the building.
Thank you.
Now, Sergeant, do the supervisors take shifts?
We have a supervisor in every single shift.
No, okay, do they take patrols?
I'm working shift right now.
Okay. So, but you do take, as a supervisor?
Yes, we're on the road with the regular troopers every day.
Okay, thank you.
There's a young lady back there, Robin.
I have a question.
Sure.
Louder, Robin.
I just have a question. I work with Murray County, so I work with you guys all the time, and thank you for your service. I think you're all great. But I do want to point out, they did state that they covered 380. In the winter, when it's busy, we're all out on 380.
Yeah.
We're all out on 380. So if something happens in the winter and we need our police, are we gonna have extra police up here? Are we gonna have extra state, you know, I mean, this is what you have to really, this is what I spoke to you about, Mike. I said, the state police on 380, like wintertime, we're out there all hours. It takes up a lot. You need to really consider that. I mean, whichever route we go, as long as we have coverage, that's what we're doing.
Is there gonna be extra personnel during the winter times if you're up on 380 during ice and snow and everything?
Well, the dynamics of the storm change things. I mean, we try to account for being a severe storm, and we can allocate more manpower to be working that particular day or particular shift. But as you know, it was 2018 when we had all the roads up here were shut down. That would be a situation would be very difficult to, we couldn't really get around ourselves. And some of us were trapped on 80 or 380, and going from motors to motors. To get a storm like that, a disturbance or noise complaint in our Pocono Borough isn't necessarily the highest on our priority list.
But a major call, like a crash or something, you definitely would
Crash, yeah, we'd have
find,
to
you would
go,
find
depending
personnel.
on the severity of the crash, is the car off the road?
Right.
Is the car blocking the highway? Is it a simple crash where information can be exchanged, no one's injured? It would vary. Obviously, if it's a serious crash, or again, a serious type of police incident, yes, we would respond as quickly as possible.
So you take precautions to have backup in the winter time, just for that scenario? Yes. Right. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Did you find a difference between your response times Monday through Friday or maybe Monday through Thursday, opposed to like Friday through Sunday? Because for me, when you're coming from Rimrock, I'm thinking like, 6, 11, and 8 are just half the search time. Whether it's going down east on Sunday afternoon, whether they're going home. police, coming up here. There's so much traffic.
To answer your
People
question,
shopping,
the trooper assigned to, say, Mount Pocono Borough or Paradise is not necessarily going to be coming out of the barracks. They may already be here.
Yeah,
Patrol.
they're stationed here their whole shift is here.
Usually their whole shift, unless they have court or some kind of other matter, they're here out in their zone their entire shift.
So they would be coming from Rimrock unless it was, like you said, a serious incident where it required more than one person or more than two people, then everybody would be coming. But like you said earlier, we're always out on 380 and 80, so it's there's a lot of cars out a lot of times. But, like Sarge said, the type of call dictates our response time, how many people come. If it's a domestic, it's always two people going.
Well, I think that also dictates, regional response.
Most likely,
Also,
right.
Fireworks, domestic, which one do you go to?
Domestic.
Right. That's enough, right.
Let me just relay an anecdote Lieutenant Paul Schock told me. We were talking about the different municipalities and coverage in them, and he said Middle Smithfield, for example, he doesn't allow the officers to come back for lunch. He wants them to stay in Middle Smithfield because of the distance. And I'm just speaking to the issue of zones, zone coverage versus being on the interstates or coming from Rimrock and so on. I mean, even if you're considering the barracks is 9 miles from Mount Pocono and regional headquarters is 6.5 miles. But that's not necessarily relevant because it's where they are. So.
One last question. Is a daily patrol, in other words, when you're in the area that you have concerns about, you have daily patrols that are always in there, right? Like regular Pocono Mountain Regional, they patrol on side streets and stuff.
Right.
Will the state police be doing that if we choose to employ you?
Well, they patrol, if they're assigned to the borough, they'll patrol all streets.
That's what I'm-
If there's a specific concern on a certain street, or speeding, or data tells us that there's crashes at this intersection, we're gonna do traffic enforcement there to curb.
Right, but I'm just saying as just a patrol with no
Well,
incidents.
most recently, we've had more like domestic security checks at certain locations, hospitals, places of worship, Sanofi, places like that, because of the world these days.
Well, my question is, if there's no incidents.
Right,
are
they're
you
out just
still
driving, they should be
patrolling
out driving
the
around.
side streets?
Right.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I want to make this clear for everybody,
Right,
that they
yeah.
understand.
Yeah, they should be out patrolling.
Because I wasn't too clear on it either, because we were talking incidents and crashes and whatever. So, okay, thank you again, I appreciate it.
All right, thank you very much. Next speaker, Donna, 131 Kinney Avenue.
Hello, I'm not sure, okay. My name's Donna Kippenegro, I live at 131 Kinney Avenue. I moved up here in 1989 when my husband was hired by Mount Pocono as one of 2 officers and a chief. I'm really concerned about this. I feel like this isn't Mayberry anymore, as much as we all would love it to be Mayberry because it was great back then. Our kids could go out, the carnival was safe. I feel like there's no safety here anymore. And I feel like if we don't have our regional police department, and it's nothing against state troopers, but I mean, if someone's breaking into my home and I'm inside, I want to have a quick response. I don't want to have maybe 5 minutes, maybe an hour, 5 minutes. It's concerning. I mean, I also wanted to ask you about, one of your ideas was maybe have some community police or something for us. Do they have guns?
It depends how we
Or are they
set
like PCP security? Because
So-
that ain't gonna work around here.
Right, so it depends what we're looking at. This is just
You
a
know,
suggestion.
that's like, no, there's no way, okay? Putting money into parks for our children, okay? Listen, I work in childcare. I love kids. I love to see them grow and develop. Where we live right now, you can't let your kids play unless it's not safe. If we lose our police department here, the first thing that's gonna happen is our homes are gonna be broken into. Because you know what? They're gonna be like, hey, well, you know what, I'm gonna take a chance. The cops can be here in 5 minutes, or they can be here in an hour and 5 minutes. If they're here in 5 minutes, sucks for me. If they're here an hour and 5 minutes, I can get away with it. They're not gonna care. I don't even feel safe going to ShopRite. I never go to Walmart at night. That wasn't like that back then. It's a different world we live in, and it stinks.
Excuse me. You're saying that you don't feel safe now when we do have Pocono Regional now?
So what happens when we don't have them?
Well, we're not saying we don't have them, we're going through it, you know.
What I'm saying is, what happens when we don't have them?
If we don't have them, we choose to go someplace else.
This whole country isn't safe.
Let me ask you, who was your officer that worked there?
I said my last name.
I didn't catch it.
Captain Agro.
I didn't know that. I know Dave and Tommy Lynette and
Yes.
Lodman. I don't remember him. That was probably when I wasn't here.
It's just beyond concerning. I want to feel safe in my home, you know.
Well, that's why we're having this discussion now, to make it the best possible way to make all residents feel safe, walking the streets at their homes, with their children in the parks. And that's why we're bringing the community together to discuss maybe the more minds that think and talk about it, the better decision we're gonna make out of it.
Also, like, I also want to ask the question about the hours. I know, like, there are allotted so many hours per week or month or whatever it is. Well, what happens when they say they have, all right, 25 hours a week? I don't know what your hours are, okay? Okay, so now we hit 25 hours, but there's a domestic. There's a guy in ShopRite with a knife. So what happens? Does it all balance out? Like
It
maybe
does.
some.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens. So,
So how do you even determine, like, you know, like, how do you say, oh, well, you know, we're not getting the hours, or it's too many hours, or it's.
So this is the chief's job, regional chief's job. So he does that well. He balances, we buy X hours a year, so many a month. And for instance, if there's an accident on 611 going through the borough and the department has to reconstruct at the scene, that's going to be more hours. And we're going to be over budget for that month. And the next month, he will reduce it and bring it down. And it's a constant ebb and flow. And that's what he does for all 5 municipalities. He monitors that. So that's how he manages it.
Right, but what I'm saying is, they're not gonna be like, oh, well, you got your hours for the week, we're still gonna show up.
Right.
They're gonna
Right.
come.
Mhm.
They're gonna come.
They are.
And as far as, like I said before, I mean, you know, you want to.
But what will happen though is that they'll reduce patrol coverage. So remember, Councilman Neville just asked about the state police, how it works. Are they going to be patrolling the roads? And they said yes, and regional does the same. But really the only area that they have flexibility in are those patrol hours, regional. So when we're over, that's where it has to be cut from. It can't be cut from investigative hours and so on.
There's so many businesses here in this borough now. Like I said, we're not Mayberry anymore. It's a big difference. Not only here 30 years, I can imagine people that have been here much longer, how they feel about it. They're gonna use their hours at Walmart. They're gonna use their hours here, and it stinks. And they can't do as much patrolling. But that doesn't mean, guess what? And no disrespect, but the same thing's gonna happen. It's not gonna change as far as that.
Well, regardless of the force, they respond to a call. Someone is dispatched when a call is made and priorities are set. So,
and like I said
absolutely,
before,
but
though, if there's a call for
place.
Fireworks,
Right.
which it's been 4th of July every weekend, you know,
Mhm.
and not only here, you know, and there's a domestic or there's an accident, what are they gonna go to? You know.
Well, they have protocols to determine, the priorities.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's fireworks isn't a top
Right.
priority, is it? No. Not that I lit fireworks off. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You know, so. And that's about all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dawn, 13 Devonshire.
Hello, my name is Dawn Mitterbacher. I live on Devonshire Lane. How you doing? No offense to the
So glad
state
they're gone.
No offense to the state trooper, thank you for your service. But regional, at least I know in my development, I live in the Pine Hill development, they patrol the neighborhood, they come around. We have a lot of Airbnbs in our development now. My main concern is if there's a domestic fight or somebody gets into, a tizzy or something like that, or, cause all people's lawns, how they gonna, patrol that? Are they gonna be there in a timely order, or they're gonna say, oh no, it's not worth coming down for another hour or so? Meanwhile, you have like 20 cars on someone's lawn.
When you say that, not to interrupt, when you say they, you mean state police or the?
No, I like when the regionals come around and they patrol our neighborhood.
Right.
What I'm saying is, we have a lot of Airbnbs now coming around here.
Right.
On my block, there's one house that has like 20 cars every weekend. In New York, New Jersey. What happens if there's a domestic fight or they get rowdy and 2, 3 o'clock in the morning? Who do you call? Are they gonna serve statements? The state troopers gonna come? Or who's gonna come, right?
Yes, the same issue. So the state troopers will be patrolling in place of regional.
Right,
So
okay.
they'll be driving through the neighborhoods and so on. And when a call is made so they have their own dispatch. When you call 911, we have a control center
Right.
that dispatches regional. But they have their own, so it either gets transferred or you call directly to state police.
Okay, now what's gonna happen when the state troopers are down at the races? You're gonna have 3 races on a weekend. How's that gonna work through Mount Pocono?
Well, according to what they're telling us, they assign zones, so that would be a different zone. Then we would have assignments here, whether it's 2 officers, 3 officers, 1 officer, whatever is determined. They will be assigned to the Mount Pocono or Mount Pocono Paradise Zone, whatever is determined to be the effective approach.
And one thing I want to mention to you about the Airbnbs.
Oh, yeah, we have Airbnbs.
They've been brought up for the last couple of meetings here at the council, and we have new zoning situation, clamping down on it, and we're working on getting rid of the illegal B&Bs in the borough. So we just started that basically the last couple of months.
That's what I was gonna ask, because I live in Pine Hills, so
Yes, it's on Devonshire Lane, it's the White House, number 12.
I live on 513.
Every weekend, there's 12 cars on the parking lot, like on the grass everywhere.
We'll give it to the zoning committee.
I called.
You call?
Yes, I did call.
Call who?
I called the borough, and I
Who
reported.
did you speak to? The secretary?
Yes. The reason why was because there was 12 cars on the lawn, 1 o'clock in the morning, they're blasting music. Okay. That's all.
Don, feel free in that case to call the police. They're supposed to respond to that. So, again, according to protocol and priorities, what's going on at the moment. But they're supposed to respond to that.
Thank you.
Thank you. 12.
She said 12.
Oh, I'm sorry. Next, Logan Everett.
As Chief of the Pocono Mountain Volunteer Fire Company and President of Pocono Mountain Regional EMS, I have grave concerns over the possibility of Mount Pocono Borough relying solely on Pennsylvania State Police coverage. My concern is not only for the approximately 100 first responders that I am responsible for, but also the residents, business owners, and visitors of Mount Pocono Borough. I will not put our first responders in harm's way unnecessarily, so in the end, it is the people we are all sworn to protect and serve that will suffer. I have over 17 years of experience working in a small area covered by PSB, and I can assure you that you will be severely disappointed, and I will clarify that in a moment. It's important to point out that this is at no fault of the troopers or their command staff. In the event it was before your time here, I'd like to recommend you find the minutes from a borough meeting. The last time this came up, Monroe County District Attorney David Christine attended and spoke adamantly against the idea as the chief law enforcement officer in Monroe County. I should have taken some notes. There were a lot of other points that I wanted to address. Mr. Penn, I believe you said that Pocono Mountain Regional does not patrol by zone, which is not correct. That is a fairly common police practice in larger departments, including Pocono Mountain Regional.
Actually, according to the chief, at 2 meetings ago, they used to patrol by zone, but they don't any longer.
Yeah, that must have been a misunderstanding. We work with them very closely, both on the fire and ambulance side, and I can tell you that we're in Zone 4 right now, which is one of 6 zones for the police department. Franny, I don't know if Senator Scavello can expand on it at all, but from my experience with the delivery of emergency service, as far as splitting it up, the only way that it's even remotely possible is based on time. It can't be based on area within a municipality. When a 911 call is placed, whether it's police, fire, or ambulance, someone has to be primarily responsible for that incident. And again, maybe Senator Scavello will expand on that, but historically there's been and maybe still are departments that exist during the day and don't exist at night. And while I can understand your theory, I've never heard of such a thing in police, fire, or ambulance of going based off of roads or portions within a municipality. Ma'am, to your comment, request or inquiring about the Paradise Township shooting, I can tell you that Pocono Township Police and Pocono Mountain Regional Police arrived simultaneously to the shooting in Paradise Township. That is at no credit to them, and it is at no fault to the state police. One thing that I've learned over the years, that the delivery of emergency service is based on strength in numbers and being in the right place at the right time. Pocono Mountain Regional happened to have a car traveling between Mount Pocono Borough and Borough Township, and Pocono Township happened to have a car at the Catholic school, or former Catholic school, on a special assignment. So the same way there could be a major incident in Mount Pocono Borough tomorrow, and it's very possible that the first law enforcement is the state police. It just varies, but I'd be very curious to know if the state police formula that I'm assuming that they use to add resources when you add coverage area, I'd be very curious to know if that's adequate. I don't know if that's a question that you've had answered, if it takes 2 or 3 people to cover the borough on a regular basis. Is that the formula that the state uses, or are they going to give the Stroudsburg barracks 1 extra guy per shift and hope for the best? To clarify the disappointed comment, I've been in the fire company for 17 years and involved in the ambulance for 11. And while I don't want to say it's not important, 99% of the complaints I hear are not a priority. While they might be a priority to some, and it's unfortunate that we live in a world that it can't be a priority, most of what everybody complains about is not a priority. I have heard so much about the 4th of July fireworks, but heard very little about the 4th of July when an individual was stabbing things inside ShopRite, and Pocono Mountain Regional Police took that individual into custody without incident. I just, for the life of me, cannot understand how we can spend time and time again talking about fireworks when there is real crime in the borough that is being handled.
Actually, I'll answer that, Logan. There was an incident, Don just mentioned I think it was either Dawn, I think it was Dawn, yeah, feeling safe in her house. The motel 3 doors down from my house, I talked about this previously, but July 1st or 2nd, I forget, but there were fireworks going off as they do all the time. I walked down there and just as I was approaching, someone threw a bunch of fireworks under a car. You know what result that can have. That's a concern. I mean, you can compare stabbing things in ShopRite and versus fireworks, and that's fair, but I think that's a pretty broad blanket statement because that was an issue followed by a little girl who must have been 4 or 5 walking up to some fireworks going off, and she grabbed this thing, and the father or male adult said, no, that's not a sparkler, that's a bottle rocket. And I called the police, even told them I was mayor. No one ever responded. I waited 40 to 50 minutes. No one ever responded. I followed up with the chief and when I got home and had an email response the next day. But that's an important issue, and it's just, I think don't disqualify something just because it's a
I'm by no means disqualifying fireworks. I've seen my fair share of fireworks mishaps, but I hate to see in today's day and age, with everything that's going on in the world, I don't think it's good when a government body is talking down on a particular police department, a police department that is accredited. I don't think anybody realizes how fortunate you are to be serviced by the Pocono Regional Police.
There's no one in this room talking down the police department.
We're only talking money. We're not talking them down.
Mr. Ozier has repeated.
Well, then address Mr. Ozier. Don't
That's
address
his
the
personal
council
opinion.
that we're talking down the police
He lives here,
department.
that's a personal
Because we're not.
Okay.
We're trying to find a suitable situation for the Borough of Mount Pocono for our police protection.
I have another question.
Thank you very much, Councilor. That's a good point.
You're in charge of the EMS?
Yes, sir.
I know Denise, okay?
Yes.
She had on Facebook an article about us. She does not want to send her people out on an incident that's bad in case there's police backup. I know a family in town, which I won't mention, every time I see that ambulance go down the street, all they're there is to give him a shot of Narcan to bring him back. How about he gets violent? I never see no police backing that ambulance up, so would you ask her to apologize and correct that statement that she put on Facebook?
Every ambulance call is different, and there is not always police available, and the crew responding to that has to make a judgment call if they are willing to go in without police, assuming they have not been instructed by the police to not respond. But if it's someone that they're familiar with, or based on the information at hand, they have to make a judgment call to try to do their job.
Thank you. Other one.
Okay, you can hear me, right? Can you hear me? All right. So going back to that same statement, which is the point I was bringing up, I know that being in charge, Logan, right? You
Yes.
are in charge of both the fire department and the MT. I know most first responders are trained and have the desire to be there to help people. That's their job, that's their passion, most of them. But again, safety has to be considered, and I understand. For us, I know I live right on 611 by Burke's, and we have Dollar General that always has some kind of incident. We had a guy there with a shotgun. We had a stabbing incident. There was assaults, all within this past year. And I personally believe that it would be unsafe if your guys would have gotten there before our regional police department there. So I agree. I know it would be up to the responding paramedics or fire department people to determine whether they feel safe enough to step in on their own. I don't know that they carry or not, but I agree with you. Our regional police department, I think, is important for our area. I do believe that we do have to come up with a better solution to the financial obligation. All of the surrounding municipalities do have a share in our borough. They're here for all of their commerce, and we just need to find a way to share the burden. That's my opinion.
Agreed, and it's important that I note, because you are covered by a regional fire department and a regional ambulance service, I happen to not live in Mount Pocono Borough. I live in Paradise Township. So I'm here giving my opinion from my experience of what is best for Mount Pocono Borough. The truth of the matter is, based on the coverage and the numbers, what's best for me and my family in Paradise Township would probably be for you to go to state police coverage, because it may increase my coverage in Paradise Township. So I'm here telling you what I think is best as a volunteer serving Mount Pocono Borough. And that's completely different than what's actually best for me personally. So I just don't want anybody to think that I came here with an agenda. I'm on both sides as I live in Paradise Township.
Okay.
I was just gonna mention that to the residents that don't, I know that you were a Mount Pocono resident.
Correct.
I just wanna thank you for volunteering to our fire department in Mount Pocono and all the service that you do for us and such. I just wanna mention that, and I think you're a stand-up guy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You mentioned, as far as what I mentioned, the state police take care of the state road. It could be a mutual aid thing. I mean, let's say if they have an incident in 611 here, the regional would respond to it until the state police got it and they get out of the way. That's the thought. Mike.
Yeah, maybe the senator can answer it, but I've never heard such a thing.
Well, they do it down in Pocono Township.
The only thing I think you see in Pocono Township is, like you see in Mount Pocono and elsewhere, inevitably the state police use state roads that aren't technically their primary area, but as the trooper said, they have jurisdiction everywhere. If they happen to be at Sanofi for something and need to get to the 380 exit in Tobyhanna and they use 611, it's not going to matter if they're in Pocono Township, Mount Pocono Borough, or Coolbaugh Township. If they come across an incident and see something, they will certainly intervene, and I think that's what you're seeing. I'd be very surprised if there's any mutual aid agreement between Pocono Township and the state police.
I don't know the answer to that, but I mean, I see the state police on 940 and so on stopping cars, issuing them tickets. So, I mean, they're doing something for revenue.
Yeah, I just think it's important for everyone to know that me personally, whether your police are in a blue uniform or a gray uniform, they are all terrific. It comes down to you need as much help as you can get, and I'm not sure that the state will provide the Stroudsburg Barracks the same number of personnel that Pocono Mountain Regional is able to provide. I think you have to, I wholeheartedly agree that it's half your budget. That's a tough spot, needs to be talked about. But I think you have to ask yourself, why are there any municipal or regional police departments in the state of Pennsylvania, or any state for that matter, or city, if you can just get it for free and that solves all the problems? Clearly it doesn't solve all the problems, or it would be happening everywhere. And just please, if I can ask nothing else, keep in the back of your mind that if you don't feel that you can afford the regional department, you surely cannot afford your own department at least not one that's not gonna be in the news all the time for the wrong reasons. So if you make this decision, who's to say, I assume you have all seen the discussion year after year about the possibility of the state charging for service. Who's to say you don't go this route and we're back here next year or the year after, and here you could be paying the state more than you were paying for Pocono Mountain Regional for less control. So, I mean, this is, as most of you know, this is a major decision, and there is likely no turning back.
So let me just address one quick thing about that last issue, the per head. And the senator can address this even better. The governor had proposed last year, and for our borough, it was $25 per head. So that's an order of magnitude difference relative to what we're paying now. Now, could that change in the future? Of course it could. Could it never pass?
Absolutely.
Even more likely. So
right, and the next governor or senators or representatives could make it happen, and it could be $100 a head. I mean, it's a guess at this point, but I think it's something that everybody needs to keep in the back of your mind. There's nobody in this room, the state senator included, that can assure you that state police coverage is free to Mount Pocono Borough for as long as we shall live.
Okay.
I mean, you have no idea.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Linda Fleming? Linda? Okay. Marie?
Hello, Marie Farnan, 18 Oak Street. I just want to make a statement. You can't compare us to Coolville and Barrett and Paradise and all that, because we're like the hub. Everybody comes into Mount Pocono to shop. We have Walmart, ShopRite, Weiss, Wawa coming, Starbucks coming, God knows what else. You attract thousands of people into Mount Pocono. We should have the top-notch, best protection out there. These other places don't have all of this. People are not flooding into these other communities like they are coming into Mount Pocono. I just have a question. I'd like to know where each and every one of you stand on this matter, since, it's our tax dollars and you're making the decisions. We'd like to know where each and every one of you stand.
Well, actually, not to interrupt you, I'm sorry, I want to just answer, is that that's why we're having this meeting tonight, to listen to the residents. And my thing, being on council, is the voice of the people. So I want to see where and this is just a fraction of the residents voicing their opinion on what they feel about this situation is. So I'm here listening to everybody speak, and I'll make even if it isn't my decision how I feel it would go, but if the majority of the residents want to go one way, I'll vote that way. But my idea is our own police force. Now, Lowen made a comment, I was going to ask him, but I don't want to get involved, that if we have our own police force, we're going to be in bad news, and that's the only thing we're going to hear about, and I don't understand his logic on that. Well, years ago, we had our own police force, and I thought it was pretty decent.
Yeah, but it was a lot. We didn't have so many people back then.
Yeah, but they can concentrate on us 24/7. It's 365 days. They don't have to run to the other communities, Barrett and Coolville and everything. They're here. Even if we spend $1 million for our own police force, we have our own police force 24/7, 365. That's my idea.
And Marie, you asked a question, you want to know where we all stand on it? This is a discussion that we're having, we're not casting any vote, we don't know where anyone stands. We want to hear from the residents of Mount Pocono, and that's what we're doing here tonight. We're not making judgment, we're not making a stand or anything, we're just having this discussion. Okay.
I sat in that audience for 2 years before running for council. I would also want to know where people stood. So I understand that question, and sitting here now, I also understand hearing people's opinions can change the way you feel personally. Individually, we all have how we feel, and what we want for what's best for our home and how we feel about our coverage. But as a representative entrusted by the public, it's our duty to respond to what you want. I know that this is huge. I think that an amendment, referendum could also be an option in order to make this decision. I don't feel that it's fair for 7 people to make such a huge decision, but if it were to come with that, I don't have a problem saying that I stand behind our police force. I believe that despite their shortcomings and our disagreements, they've always showed up. So it's the outcome that matters.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah. Rob Miller?
Hi, Rob Miller, 28 Center Avenue. Just got a series of questions. First, thanking the councilwoman. One of the things I wanted to say was, it's really not fair for you guys to have to shoulder the burden of making this decision. It's a crappy decision to have to make. It's tough. It's the police. It's how we protect our community. The state police, they do a great job. They have a budget, just like everybody else. They only have so many troopers to hand out, and we're very, I'm gonna use a polite term here, active when it comes to crime. That's the most polite way I can put it. And you never know what's happening on the mountain. Could be okay, it's a casserole of nightmares under eggs. We know that. So, like the councilwoman said, you've got to put this to a vote. Don't make this decision on your own. I know we voted for you to make these decisions. This is the kind of decision, do not, I'm begging you, don't shoulder this burden. Bring it to the community, have a vote. That's the only sane decision, because no matter what you guys decide, you're going to be wrong. And I think we all understand how politics work.
You run it
Believe me, I've thought about it, but frankly, I would rather stick my hand in a meat grinder. So, honestly, don't make this decision. Don't. It would be foolish. Put it to a vote. That's the only sane decision. Then you've got your numbers. Everybody that votes, I know, not everybody votes. Well, that's their fault. Go and vote. It's the United States, it's our right, vote on it. It's your money, vote on it. It's your safety, vote on it. You guys, look, Mount Pocono, how long has Mount Pocono been financially questionable? Years and years. Years and years and years and years. How much money would we save not using regional? And I'm not saying we do that. I'm a big fan of the police. Luckily, the few times I've had to call them for things, they were there. Like within minutes, they're at my house. So I've never had problems. And where are they're there. Please show up. All right. Even the state police, they do a great job. This isn't a question about how good a job they do. Okay? It's much bigger than you guys trying to figure out. So, but how much was it? $730,000 a year?
In addition to the mortgage. It comes up to just over $1 million.
Okay, so just over $1 million when it's all said and done. Okay, great. So let's say we get rid of the police department. Okay, for whatever reason. We have this $1 million. What then do you guys do with the $1 million? You see how it's like an escalate? Because no matter, again, okay, we get rid of, there's never going to be an ending. What do you guys do with the $1 million next? Is it going to salaries? Is it going to fix the roads? What's your plan?
I'm not crossing, not to the gas station.
See, right there, no offense.
No,
What are you gonna,
I
okay,
can't
now I've got $1 million, what do we do with it?
that.
Again, no matter what you do with that money, you're not gonna make the right choice. Because somebody's gonna be upset over it. Why did you fix that road? Why did you fix, come up with a plan. This is fine. This nice open forum, we're discussing it. You guys need a much longer plan that has to be public. If we save this money, this is what we plan to do. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Not it's gonna save us the money. How many times I've heard, we're gonna save this much money, and then what? Come up with a plan. Put it all together. We're not children. We act like it sometimes. I don't wanna be here. I could be home watching cartoons with my kid. But I'm here. So, give us a plan to follow with you. Let us vote on it for you. That's what I'm asking. Okay? I like the police. I like having the police. It saves me having to shoot people that are trying to break into my house. Which honestly, I'm not going to feel good about. I don't think anybody really wants to shoot somebody coming into their house. If I have to, I will. I don't want to. That's why I call the police. Okay? That's enough about that. I do have one thing I want to ask though. It's in regards to the whole silliness with fireworks. I'm going to just put a pin in that one. Do I still need to get a permit to have a yard sale?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
There are
Okay.
certain weekends that it's free though.
Two weekends.
We did set that.
That's great. 2 weekends a year, that's great. But if I throw crap out of my yard, sell it, right, and I didn't get a permit, see, because I did when we first moved here 18 years ago, we did that. We got a very aggressive letter saying we were going to find all kinds of crazy money because I didn't pay the permit fee that we didn't know about, which that's my fault for not thinking I needed a permit. So who enforces that? Like somebody had to drive by my house and say, well, that idiot's having a yard sale. Let's see, he didn't do a permit, so we're going to send him this aggressive letter. Who enforces that? Zoning. Okay, so Mount Pocono literally blew up a couple weeks ago. All right, around July 4th, I think it was. Just boom. Everyone's talking about fireworks ordinances. Mind you, are they getting fined? Is somebody writing them letters and saying they're going to get fined? Is there somebody driving around?
He's right there.
Where is she?
Oh, don't put it on Gene.
We just put, we just had a new changeover when it comes to zoning and code enforcement. We just had new individuals here because we had just like a part-time individual, one individual. So we just revamped our entire process. And we're making sure those are some of the things we're looking at, how we can enforce, making sure that the individuals that we have in zoning and code enforcement, that they're trained to be able to enforce some of these issues that we have in place and these ordinances that we put in place. So that's something, what we've been using is utilizing the police department, calling the police department to help during that July 4th time frame. And our zoning officer is right behind it, but that's what we're doing.
Excellent. So let me ask you this. Let's say, much like the yard sale situation, I start blowing up crap on my yard. What am I going to get charged with? How much are you going to charge me? What's my fine going to be?
Right now, as it stands, with the police department have an ordinance, we have an ordinance resolution that we put in place, so the police department has that paperwork in place, and they will be called.
They will be called.
They will be called, and they'll come over, and they'll issue your warning, or, take it to the next step.
Right. No. Okay. I'm not trying to be argumentative, just trying to help you out here. So, I'm blowing stuff up, you call the cops, they give me a warning, all right? I have a yard sale, you're gonna fine me. What I'm saying is, I'll be out here, Mayor. If I blow stuff up my yard, fine me.
Yeah.
We're cash strapped.
Mr. Miller.
Blow stuff up, you have to pay for it.
Mr. Miller,
So do that.
Mr. Miller, your first statement that you made
Rob,
about
you can call me
allowing
Rob.
us to make the public, let it be a vote. Thank you very much, sir, for that, statement. I think that's a great, statement that you made. However, I'm gonna ask you to give us a chance. We just, literally, about a month ago, revamped our old zoning and code enforcement piece of it. You know, so there's a lot of things that we're working on that we're sending to the planning commission. There's gonna be some changes in regards to that, and you're correct. If you're having a yard sale and you're a resident and you're paying taxes and we're gonna fine you for that, why should somebody almost blow up your house and not be fined?
Right.
These are some of the stuff that we're still working on, and we're working with the police department and our zoning and code enforcement are taking those things into consideration. And we're gonna make sure that they're trained properly to be able to do that. So I totally understand what you're saying,
All
but
right.
we're
Thumbs
working
up.
on that.
Thumbs up on that.
Yes, thank you.
Excellent. Good to hear. Next thing, you talked about there were ordinances that the police, I might not have heard it correctly because sometimes people don't know how to use the microphones properly, so you can't hear it in the back all the time. So, what are the ordinances that aren't being enforced by the police, in your opinion? I understand fireworks was one, so we can skip past that one.
So we've got an issue with the fireworks ordinance. We'll skip that.
Yeah.
We've got short-term rentals. They actually, we've got noise ordinances that I've had complaints about. So I don't want to say, and I don't mean to suggest this, so there's not a blanket, we're not enforcing ordinances. In fact, last month they enforced 6 ordinance arrests in the borough. The previous month, in June, 7. Previous month, 4. So some are enforced, but there are people who complain that things aren't being enforced, and we do pay for that. And of course, like I was saying before, that's always an issue of protocol and priorities and response too. But there's something a little more systemic too that we're concerned about.
Understandable. The reason why I bring these things up, and it's maddening. Like when you had a situation you felt passionate about, they were blowing up fireworks right next to your house, okay? You want someone to come and stop it, and the situation with the little girl being there and her dad saying, you'll lose a finger. Yeah, it's traumatic. Nobody wants to see that, hear that, or to experience it happening or almost happening. What I'm saying is, your call is logged, okay? It's a simple matter of looking at the logs and seeing what else Pocono Mountain was dealing with. Could have been drunk and disorderly, could have been a car accident, could have been a whole number of things why they couldn't get to the situation where the fireworks were going off that you were calling it, you personally were calling it on. Right. They could have been a countless other one. And so saying that they're not responding or they're not trying to take care of the calls, it's not the case. It simply isn't the case.
So in that particular case, what I didn't elaborate on is when I left, when I walked out of that parking lot, the police were leaving the parking lot across the street. And there were 2 cars, and they had never responded there. So that's why
and that can be documented.
Yes, it can. In fact, the chief answered that, and he explained that there was a mistake in protocol. So it wasn't an off-the-cuff remark.
No, I didn't think it was an off-the-cuff remark. I'm just saying, the police have to deal with a whole number, and you know this, we know this, situations, especially here up on the hill.
Right.
You know, it's bananas up here. All right? On a good day, it's bananas. All right? I'm sorry, the whole fireworks thing, it's silly. This is something that can be handled in-house. Much like the situation with the yard sale. Okay? Hire a zoning person. We know when stuff's going to blow up around here. It happens every year. Send them out, document it. Everybody's got a phone with a video. Okay? You want documentation? There. Your address if you're blowing stuff up. Here's your fine. All right? Frankly, the police have enough crap to worry about than people lighting off fireworks or enforcing burning bans. things like that, especially up here on the hill. All right? It's not a bad community. It does lose its mind from time to time. All right? So, personally, if it does come to a vote, I'm voting to keep the police. But I would be more than willing to show up at meetings and work with council on trying to come up with a plan to help us get out of this financial pinch that we've been in for ever.
Can I answer that?
Please.
Me and Mr. Neville talked about, see if we can get this on the ballot to vote on for the residents of Mount Pocono.
Which part? The police ballot?
About the police.
Right.
To see if we want them, you know, nay or nay. And my question's gonna be, if we do keep the police department, everyone on this council, we all live in the borough. We all come under the same rules and regulations. If our finance committee goes over their budget for next year, and we can afford somehow to keep the police department, but how much are we gonna have to raise my taxes and everybody else's taxes here to cover our budget and our finances? If we go too many years longer, I probably won't be here, they might go bankrupt.
No.
You don't know.
Well, about the matter
The
of
future.
raising taxes, here's the thing, it's a fundamental fact of life, taxes go up. It's fiscally irresponsible to not think taxes aren't going to go up, or we can't raise taxes. Things go up, the cost of electricity goes up every year, gasoline goes up every year, insurance goes up every year, everything goes up every year. Taxes need to be raised. But here's the thing, you have to be able, come up with a plan, obviously there's no plan. For or
We
against.
don't know yet until we discuss it after
So
tonight. and
let's
get
put it to
together.
a vote.
But
Put it to a vote.
we
And
will.
explain the vote. Don't just say, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. There has to be an explanation behind why you're voting to either get rid of the police or keep the police, and the repercussions of both. You can't just, look, bottom line, this is not a simple yes or no. Some people wish it's a simple yes or no. I want the police. I know my taxes could go up. I'm willing to pay taxes. Now, I know a lot of people can't pay their taxes because things are bad right now. Because we're in a pandemic. People are out of work. Things are tough. And everything goes up. But a solid plan that is thought out. Look, God bless you for deciding to go into politics. All right? And do this. But this is not something that 7, 8 people should be deciding on their own. Again, because you will never make the right decision. Be our representatives, put things in front of us, let us vote on the situation. That's what democracy is.
You're not a democracy.
All right, calm down. We are. When it's done correctly, we're a democracy. Come up with, Councilwoman.
I was just gonna say, the bringing up the referendum is the reason why I felt it's up to our community. Having this is great, but ultimately, if we are going to be making that decision, it's our fault, either way. And I don't wanna bear that burden. I know what I want for myself because I know how I feel, but I'll be honest, if I call the police to my house, they have to ask directions. So that bothers me. So yeah, okay, maybe state police would be better for me personally. But that's not what's best for my community. That's not what's best all the way around. There's so much that goes on at Walmart. I never go to Walmart. You'll never find me at Walmart. But that doesn't mean that it's because it's bad or the neighborhood is, it's just a personal choice. Each of us have a personal choice. I can't make that personal choice for our community, not for something this serious. Not for something.
So you and I are on the same page
Yes,
with that.
yes,
So
that's why I brought it up.
This is what I'm proposing. You are our elected officials. Instead of making these decisions, consider yourselves, until we get a little closer to being out of this silliness, you just be the gatekeepers. You be the gatekeepers of the decision. You let us come to the gate and help you decide whether we're going through this gate or that gate with you. Because this is a mess. This whole thing's a mess. And we all together as a community have to make decisions on this. And it's crazy. And it's constant. There's going to be a lot of bickering and a lot of loud voices. But we can get through this. Sorry. You all took these positions for a reason. And it's a nightmare. But you're not going to get through it cleanly. But if we're all making the decisions and you guys are making the final based off of what we're voting on, it's a little less dirty for you, a little less dangerous. Because nobody can argue with the numbers. 60% of the people said this, 40% of the people said that. Obviously, we're going with the majority. That's what democracy is supposed to be. It'll make it easier on everyone until we can get through this crisis if we're all working together. So that's my proposal. Let's actually be a democracy here in Mount Pocono and get through this.
Thank you very much, sir. If only we could get an audit done, where we could figure out where we're at, but we can't get an audit done because we don't even have the vote. We can't even vote against ourselves to get an audit done to see where our money is and what we can do. But that's another issue.
Why? Wait. So the council refuses to vote yes on getting an audit?
And getting an audit done, sir, yes.
Well, not everybody on council.
And we have not had an audit.
Well, there's voting for that too.
Yeah.
Like voting people out who don't want to help by saying, yes, let's just look at the money.
Thank
Why
you.
our finances are so screwed up.
Exactly.
Why somebody would say no to that, and I don't know,
Who's
and believe me, I'm gonna look at the ceiling when I say this.
Okay.
I don't know who said no to it. Sounds suspicious.
Interesting.
Sounds interesting. Why aren't you saying yes to looking at the books?
The council person that said no to it was the issue of the funds to make it happen.
So the cost of the audit
Right.
was prohibitive to having the audit.
Right.
But when you haven't had one in
Find the
forever
money.
and we're having the same issue.
Find the money then. Just find the money.
Yeah.
Just find the money.
That's what I say.
All right, thank you for your
Mr.
time.
Miller, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mike Braden? Mike Braden?
Hey, Mike.
Oh, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes, Mike Reardon, 14 Cedar Road. I only have one issue regarding the Pocono Mountain Regional Police. I hope these wonderful people don't piss me for pointing it out. But if the Regional Mountain Police are going to continue, I was going to suggest that if you're going to hire future officers, that you do like thorough background checks and maybe perhaps have an internal affairs division. Because I did bring up 7 months ago about a Corporal Mertz who pulled over a young lady who was going to give her a DUI and was going to say, well, we'll drop DUI if you do a quid pro quo and, demand, he asked her for sexual favors and, just went to her house. No, this is relevant. I think this is relevant, all right? Madam President.
Please,
Hello?
excuse me, please give him a chance to speak. We allow everyone to speak. We have to give him that respect. If this is what his concern is, then we have to give him that chance to speak. I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
I have a daughter. I'm sure, you all have kids, right? Daughters and stuff. All right? Now, you could say, well, there's some few bad apples and anywhere you gotta weed them out or whittle them out, et cetera. I'm just saying that was, I know he's not the corporal anymore. I know he's now in jail and everything. Having said that, I'm just suggesting, just in the future, just do thorough background checks. That's all. That's all I'm saying, all right?
Thank you.
I mean, normally I would look, I'm on vacation, all right? I mean, I just, I'm not leaving the state due to COVID-19, pretty much. All right, so, it's a little constructive criticism, that's all.
Thank you.
All right?
Thank you,
Mike.
Thank you, Michael.
Okay, thank you very much. I have a gentleman on our list. His name is Neil, but he's not in Mount Pocono, is he?
Neil?
Neil? But he's not a Mount Pocono, he's not a resident. So,
Is he here?
yeah, he's not a resident.
he's
Okay,
here.
anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak? 2 to 3 minutes.
May.
I just got one question.
I just have one question for council. Has anyone looked into whether deciding to leave regional is a item that actually can be put up for referendum? Since it's something that's within council's power to decide.
So I had a discussion with our solicitor about that, and from what I recall, but I could be wrong, it wasn't possible, but we'll have that discussion and check into it, let people know.
Yeah, I think we talked about this a while ago.
I think so.
It wasn't a thing that we could make a referendum on.
All right, anyone else? All righty, we just wanted, Mario.
Good evening. Good evening. I lived in Mount Pocono since 1987. And I will tell you, until regional, you just go back and check the records. If you, it's pretty hard to do that. The amount somebody mentioned it here. The break-ins in these homes is unbelievable. I have one person that works for me right now. Our house was broken in 3 times within a 2.5-year period. You talk of when you have somebody break into your house, you feel violated, and that was happening. Since regional, those numbers have come down dramatically because of the response time. And I'm not sure, but I think you get free regional because if, let's say, for example, Cuba Township, when they started at Tobiana Township and they're going to Cuba, they're traveling on 940 in your borough to get to Cuba Township. Because there's the Pocono, the Cuba Township regional, the regional department, they have their different zones up there. So think about that. When they're going back to the barracks, and when they're coming into Cuba, or when they're going up to Barrett, that's police visibility within your area, and you're not paying for it because that's where they're going. They're in those. So think about that because sometimes you don't realize it, and it's pretty serious. The state police, I got to tell you right now, we have the best state police in the nation. There is no better state police than Pennsylvania State Police. And I have to tell you something else. You have one of the top regional departments. Look, I have now 5 regionals, and I have a lot of police departments. We've got some very good police departments out there. But you know what? In the old days, when we had a small police force, and you needed to get trained, okay? Just think of it this way. You had two police officers and a couple of part-timers. One's in jail. Well, let's say one is at the court because some crime or whatever. One is off. Think about that. If you're thinking of going that way, and then when it comes to training, you've got to send them out to train. Meanwhile, here in your department, your police officers get their training here. They're all you have certified members on that force that you're not paying to send them out to get trained. State police covers approximately, there's about 40,000. 40,000 is a rough estimate of population that they cover. Going to Price, going to Middle Smithfield, Paradise, Hamilton Township, and also Delaware Water Gap. And plus the main highways, they get top priority. I-80 all the way out, I believe it's all the way out to 115, and then they take I-80 out to 380 and out that way. So, you think about it and look at all the traffic sometimes. They have a zone here, okay? But there's shifts where that zone is going, where that officer is going back before the next one coming up here. And the weekends is when you really need the support up here, and they're traveling, and and think about the traffic. I heard the mayor, you made some comments, and I gotta tell you, I did a little research, and some of your numbers are not, in 2019, Mount Pocono accounted for 57% of all ordinance enforcements in the Pocono Mountain region. 57% of all the ordinance enforcements in the whole regional, that's all of the municipalities, 57%. And as far as traffic enforcement, 20%, 27% of all traffic enforcement, and that just, again, think of all the others, was in Mount Pocono. You know, there's 24 hours a day, there's 27% of all traffic enforcement was Mount Pocono. So you're getting your share in those two things. The ordinance is 57%, traffic enforcement 27%, and the contract, from what I've got, is 12%. I know you mentioned 13, but they're saying it's 12% of the service.
No, it's 12, I didn't say
Yeah,
13.
okay, I thought I heard 13, okay. It's 12% of the service. You got one of the best police departments, and I have to tell you, again, I'm gonna start to answer some questions now, there's some questions that were answered. Franny, there's no deal with the state police in Pocono Township. Remember, when they're driving through Pocono Township to go to Paradise, okay? In the morning, some of them do stop and have breakfast before their shift starts, and they're out there going to Paradise in two directions, either 611 or out 715. So, or to get onto the highway at Tannersville, or getting off the highway at Tannersville to go do. So there is no special deal for Pocono Township.
Daryl, can I answer that?
All right, go right ahead.
I was told that since we are in the regional, and that's the reason why I asked the question, and they are not, they're an individual police department, that they can work jointly with Pocono Township, and they cannot work with us because we're regional.
That's not correct, and whoever told you misspoke. That's not correct.
I think the regional told me. That was brought up in the regional.
That's not correct. Somebody gave you bad information. I wish I could, it's not correct.
I will check it out.
Yeah. Roy Gross was a councilman here for many, many years. And that man's up in heaven right now, probably shaking his head that he can't believe that this is going on. Our number one responsibility around this table is protection of your citizens. Protection for your citizens. That's your number one, believe me. That is, and Mayor, it is number one above all. And you talk about maybe raising taxes. Well, you guys just took 10% over the assessed value this year. Nobody complained because a lot of people got their taxes reduced. But I will tell you this: if people out there, when it gets out there, and I don't know how many people do know, but I'll tell you, my community wouldn't be happy about it.
Neither would I. That's why.
So I tell you all, please give this matter serious consideration, because I'm going to tell you, it would be the biggest mistake that this council can ever make. Police is number one. Now, state police fees, charging, if it happens, it'll be over $100. Over $100. That, not 25, not 50, if it happens, because I'm going to tell you what's happening. The state budget is going to have a $5 billion hole. And to get votes to do for state police, they will not, whatever municipalities are going to vote, whoever, the senators especially, they're going to vote for it. They're going to want to make sure that everybody gets charged the same. There's not going to be, an idea is an idea, but when it comes down to a charge, and you can take a look back with pride, because every governor, Rendell, Governor Corbett, every governor comes up with that as a and even prior to Rendell, Ridge also had that idea. It is over that $100 is always the number, and I don't want to see it. I don't think it's I think and the state police again, they're stretched. And I know they can't say it, but I can tell you, they're not going to get any new people to cover Mount Pocono. What they have there in the barracks is what you're going to have. There's not going to be any new people, any new complement, more of a complement. They're great, they're here for backup. They're in Paradise Township. You know, we used to get credit for Paradise Township's crimes. You know, I tried to get Paradise when I was mayor to join regional. And Franny, I think you've heard me say that many times. And Paradise Township, whenever there was a crime in the newspaper, it would say in Mount Pocono, but it was Paradise, but it's a Mount Pocono address. So I remember Donna Asia was the chair of the supervisor down there, and I says, you know what? Now I know why you don't want it, because we get credit for your crime.
Yeah.
Any specific questions you have for me? Yes, go ahead.
Why don't you go?
I'll go. I just have a question, like, I'm new basically to Mount Pocono. I'm here not even 2 years. Okay, and I don't feel safe in my community. I've called Pocono Regional a few times for incidents. So I don't feel safe. I'm not saying they're bad guys. I think there's not enough guys. That's one of my problems. Will it be different with state police? I don't know. I really don't know. This is a good meeting for me. I can speak for me because I'm listening to the residents. I do have a huge issue in Mount Pocono with Airbnb rentals.
Amen.
And it seems that Pocono Regional doesn't want to do a thing about it. We had a meeting with all these residents. My heart hurt for them. And actually, I wanted to go to your HOA meeting, but we weren't allowed.
Yeah, because
and I did a HOA because I served on a board in Florida for 14 years, and I get it, homeowners only. What do we do for those residents? They're still residents of Mount Pocono. So the police aren't helping them. They came to the borough. You're preventing us from helping them. So what do we do?
Am I preventing you from helping them?
Yeah, I just wanted to listen to your meeting. I
Well,
wanted to listen
no, excuse me. First of all, you didn't invite me to the dance. You had the dance here, since you brought it up.
I wanted to.
I wasn't invited here, and I know that discussion was held. And Mayor, you did a resolution, you had it right down to the dime, so you knew that they were gonna be here.
Yeah.
I didn't even have the courtesy of an invite here. Now, let me explain something to you. Many of, there's about 4 or 5 at my meeting. You know how many people came to that meeting? Only the people that were upset about the Airbnbs. We're all upset about them. And that problem is in every community. Now, there are things that the borough can do here, and I actually spoke about it to Gene. I have to tell you, I saw the comments here from the video was up on Facebook, okay? And so since we're talking about it, you have a tool, and I think you can find the hell out of them. And the tool is anytime they sign a lease, we might not agree with the lease or not, but that house has to be inspected, and it's a $75 cost. Now, in Mount Pocono, it's because of that meeting. We decided we couldn't get volunteers, but now the whole group is energized, and we put back our agricultural review board, and we're going to take over a lot of that responsibility from the zoning officer. We'll go after those properties that are not doing the right thing. But as far as the zoning issue, it is your responsibility, regardless of what anybody says. It's a zoning regulation. Our community is not a gated community. It's your roads, it's your streets and everything. That responsibility is on you. We tried that. We want to help, but we don't have the financial. We pay taxes just like every other house in this municipality. We pay taxes just like everyone else. We want to be treated the same way, just like the Pine Hill section and everything else. But we will help. We will help go after them. If you have your zoning officer needs people to go into any of those houses, and because they might be afraid, we will give you 2 or 3 people from the ARB board to have assistance when you go in there. Okay?
Yeah, but having an ARB person go into an unsafe situation,
No, first of all, I'm talking about an empty house before they rent. Enforce your ordinance.
Yeah, but how are these illegal? Like, I'm listening to the residents, and a lot of them are talking safety. which that's, for me, it's my utmost. Safety is utmost.
Yeah.
Financial situation in this borough is another issue in itself. But when we have 7, 8, 20 cars, like the lady said, on a house, Pocono Regional should be answering these calls, but they're not. Why is that? That's what I wanna know. Why is that? I drive around weekends just to see the New York cars, the New Jersey cars. In a pandemic, how come we're not even doing anything about that?
I have to tell you, the comment was made here, because I get a call from a property owner the next day and said about the house. I said, did you call the police? They said, no. I said, you have to call the police. So the next time that individual calls me, the first thing I ask, did you call the police? He says, no. I says, don't call me any longer if you don't call the police. You have to put it on record. You have to put it on record.
What are you doing as an association to the owners of these properties? In your bylaws, I'm sure it says something in the bylaws.
It doesn't.
Nothing
It
about
doesn't.
short-term rentals?
It doesn't. It doesn't.
Wow, you need to redo your bylaws.
No, you can't. You know why you
Sure
can't
you
do it? To change the covenants, you need
I know that.
75%. And we won't get 75%. It's very easy to say that, and I know because I went door to door. You can't. But the zoning, or the zone, it's your zone, R1, you can't do it in an R1. So I don't have to change anything. You guys have to enforce the zoning ordinance.
We'll enforce.
If you do that, we're good. But I'm gonna tell you, we'll go after all the nitpicky stuff, we'll go after it. And we will help you with that. That was an agreement that we made. And I'd like to meet with both of you and with maybe some folks from the board on a couple of issues, especially that Heath Lane paving. I called you on. That paving will come right up. They have to do the whole lane. And on Mountain Drive the same way. If they don't, you can add that to your tax increase. You gotta get after these guys that are cutting your road, and even on Heath Lane. The water company made on Shelley Lane, made some cuts. That's already sinking. You can't just patch a pothole, and then you'll be taking care of it in a few years. You can spend a ton of money on that. You gotta get them. That's a brand new road that was a year and a half ago paved. And they cut that up, and you just write it. You'll see what I'm talking about. They gotta do the whole lane, and otherwise don't give them their.
Senator, I agree with you completely. But I think the comment was made, and I don't know this issue inside and out, but by zoning office last time, but that paving is just temporary. But I could be wrong. But I agree with you completely.
They
I know
sealed
they
it.
did, but that's just,
right?
that was at the request of the borough.
Yeah. Now, don't trust that guy. Just check it.
We'll check it. But I just want to clarify a couple things. So I believe the comment was made at the last meeting that the residents contacted you about the meeting here. I wasn't involved.
No, they did not.
Well, they organized that meeting.
Yeah.
They specifically organized that meeting. In fact, I was away on vacation and I was on a conference call, and the request was made for a resolution, and that was the origination of the resolution. As far as the kind of regional driving through the borough and free services, this is exactly what the regional department is arguing too, Fran, DiPiano, and so on. It's the same line. So I know I walked down through the borough on 611 one day with the engineer talking about options, and 4 regional cars went by me. Now, they drive through the borough, that's good, but I don't call that a patrol. It's good that they're passing through. I don't object to that, of course. But the argument at the commission was made, because they do, we should pay more. And that's what I'm saying. Yes, it was.
I know, sir, but don't let that happen.
I agree.
Because that was the beauty of Mount Pocono, because you're the crossroads.
Right.
Don't let that happen.
And that's my argument.
And I'm gonna tell you something else. The visibility of that vehicle, the fact that they see those cars helps keep crime out, because you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. But the ordinance arrests too, my numbers weren't enough. I'm reading from the police commissioner report right here, actually. And 50% of the borough's, 50% of ordinance arrests are the boroughs is their argument. And that also is an argument to increase our portion of the contribution, which results in higher taxes. But there's another issue there. We make up 57% of ordinance arrests, but the other municipalities are largely HOAs and PRDs, and they're not enforceable ordinance arrests in those communities by and large. Some are, but not all. And so it's not apples to apples. And I don't.
But population-wise, you have much less population than every one of those municipalities.
We do, and we have a small area too.
But when you look at total percentage, and look at population, you are by far one of the highest.
So then we should pay more.
No, I don't want you to pay more. I want you to pay what you're supposed to pay, but I don't want you to pay more. Now, when you say that they're not enforcing your ordinances, they are, and that's my point. They are enforcing your ordinance.
But if we're not getting responses to calls, they're not necessary. They may be enforcing 6 in July, 7 in June, 4 in May. July was the 4th of July holiday was in July, and it was actually lower. So they're not enforcing all of our ordinances. They are doing some. And again, I would agree that these are issues of protocol and priority, of course. But I don't think that's a fair comparison, and certainly from their point of view that we should pay more. No.
I agree. Look, you're paying by hours of service, and that's what you pay. You don't pay any more than that. Don't change the formula. That formula was by hour service. When that police officer is in your municipality, that's what you're paying for, and nothing else.
Right. I have a question, Senator. You spoke about these homes, these short-term rental homes, about inspection. These homes are never empty. So how are we supposed to conduct, or is zoning supposed to conduct them? They're never empty. They're filled every weekend. And another thing, they're in so many violations, and they've been issued these violation orders, and they're unresponsive.
Have you sent them fines?
We're not even able to serve them. These individuals are the owners or outside of the area, so we're not even able to serve them.
So how about I heard this mentioned before. I hate to bring this up at this meeting, but I've heard it mentioned that about padlocking them. Okay. Now, if you send them enough violations and say you're in violation, we will stop you from renting until you pay your fines. I think, padlock don't.
Our solicitor, we mentioned, our solicitor told us that we cannot do that. Our solicitor stated that we cannot do that.
You also have you still have to inspect. That's your ordinance. And if they don't allow you in to inspect, then you can. Because you can't rent unless they inspect. You got to make sure the electrical's right. You got to, in the bathroom, in the kitchen, and it was $75. I used to have a 4-family down here, and before I rented, guess what? They came down. No special preference there, Mike.
Yeah, but it's an illegal rental to begin with.
Well, correct, but we should do this in private because we'll sit down and I can give you that information.
Yes, I think we should.
Let's do this in private and stuff because there is and we're willing to. Hey, as soon as they get there, look, I've been going there. The folks didn't know that. I've been going there. The next door neighbor knew it, and I told him 10 o'clock the party's over. You go inside, okay? And I pretty much threatened the owner of that property because I met him there. I said, if you don't clean this property up with the garbage cans and all, I'm gonna have the Department of Health close you up, COVID-19. And he shook.
Well, that's what you need to do.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to, that's what you have to do, Tom.
Carry a big stick.
Yeah. Want to go back to the police? Any other police?
Yes,
Yeah.
we have people online in our Zoom, and they have some questions.
But I just want to know if you had any other questions for me. I believe it's your decision. That's why you're the elected officials. You get the big bucks. I applaud all of you for doing what you do. But I'm going to tell you, if you're going to give a property owner a choice. You know, the ones that were here in the past know it very well. Franny knows it very well. Whoever lived here in the past knows, and it was a lot different then. Population wasn't as big. You're up about 1,000 people in population here. Be careful. You don't want to go back to the past. We got to learn from our past. And since the regional was here, crime has come down, even with the other issues that you're having. Your commercial, and I don't know how we do it, but your commercial area, Walmart, and the other stores. Think about this: when a police officer arrests somebody, now he's got to go down there. So, and even if it's a state police officer, he has to take it all the way back into the court. That takes them off, and there's a tremendous amount of petty larceny, and all that other stuff in these stores. Now there are some counties, president judges, that allow the security person in the store, like Walmart, once he's arrested, to follow through in the courts. And I'm not sure if, it should be a discussion we could have with the county. That could keep the officer here more visible, because that takes up a lot of time. You could be there, you could spend the whole day there. And if we can have the security from the Walmart, the security from those, take it, once they're arrested and take it through the court system, I think we can cut some time. And that's something we can work with. Mayor, we can go down and talk to the president judge, and we can work with it. Because, yeah.
No, I was just going to ask, Senator, you represent some of the other municipalities in the county, and the ones that are served by state police. Are they unhappy with the service?
I think you need to talk to the residents. They do serve, but the time in between the calls is pretty long.
So I've talked to
now, remember now, Jackson Township is not covered by this department here, and Polk Township, Eldred Township, Chestnut Hill, those are the ones out you're waiting sometimes. You really are.
So now, this is anecdotal, and I'm not a fan of that kind of argument, and that's why we need to research this stats, because they speak for themselves. The historical analysis of response time. But when I speak to people, I spoke to someone in Paradise the other day who was assaulted at Casas, and he told me within 10 minutes, 7 police cars were there. I spoke to a supervisor, Middle Smith, who was telling me he's never heard a complaint. And of course, it depends on the nature of the call. An emergency that they're like that, and a low priority call, just like regional, they're going to take more time. 20 to 30 minutes, 30 to 40, whatever.
You're unique because you're the crossroads. You have all of these stores. You can't compare to any, outside of like a Stroudsburg or Stroud Township, you're unique. You look at all the commercial you have here.
Right.
You can't, there's no way you can compare to Casas. What else they have down there? You know what I'm saying? And in the casino, there's state police in there.
Right.
You can't compare to them. You can't compare to Polk Town. Jackson Township, I believe, has 2 businesses in the whole township. It's a lot different. Chestnut Hill has a strip on 209, but nothing else. Everything is on 209. You're not going anywhere else. And the barracks goes right past it, and it's pretty close to it. You can't compare, honestly. If you look at you want to compare to Stroudsburg, compare to East Stroudsburg, but you can't compare to a township with the same population as you, and has nowhere near the traffic that you have.
Okay, anything else?
Okay. Listen, thank you very much, and I'm gonna give you a call to see if we can get together. I think we can, and work together on it. We're willing to do that, okay?
Yeah, we have, okay, so now we have people, on the Zoom, and the Zoom is now open. Anyone on the Zoom that wish to speak? I sent out a message, I'm still waiting. Hello, okay, thank
Can you hear me?
you.
This is Rhonda from Cobb. I'm on Stonegate Court, Mount Pocono.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, now, I'm with the gentleman who spoke earlier that said we should bring it to a vote to the people. And I do believe we should keep the Pocono Regional Police. I'm curious to know the new businesses coming in. Was this considered when we know more businesses are coming and more people are moving into our area? And was any tax dollars, any revenue that's going to be coming in from those businesses, et cetera, going to cover some of our policing?
Is that together?
So, Rhonda, can you repeat your question, just the core of it there? You were asking whether new businesses coming in, whether tax dollars have been allocated for new businesses. Was that the main part of your question?
Wait, I'm having a problem. Rhonda, can you unmute yourself? Okay, all right, now she unmuted herself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can, thank you.
Okay, yes, that was my question. I'm wondering if there's taxes being allocated to the new businesses coming in and the existing businesses for the policing, because they're going to be needing them and they're going to be using our police as well.
Right, well, I mean, part of what we do every year when we look at the budget is the police budget, and there hasn't been, I would say that there hasn't been a consideration for any tax dollars at the moment. Those businesses haven't opened. Of course, it's something we'll have to look at as they do, but where we stand now at roughly 50% of the budget on policing, I think that's what this whole discussion is about, the crux of it. Not whether they provide good service, bad service. I think we all agree they provide good service. We're just considering costs and so on. So there's not been any allocation of extra funding to the police department because of new businesses at this point. They haven't opened yet, so.
Well, maybe that should be considered. And what do the existing businesses think about about the possibility or potential of losing our regional police?
Well, some of them might speak after you here, I don't know. I know I've spoken to some of them, and it's certainly not, I can't say they all feel this way, they all don't feel this way. I can tell you one of the core businesses in town made a comment to me that he would love to have some local policing. I'm gonna say what other people have, but this is what he said to me, the way it used to be. He told me that, it was great when we had our local force, and that sometimes he would leave his business, he'd get a call at night, did you leave your door unlocked? And they would just walk around and be part of the community. So we're not that community anymore, but that doesn't mean we wouldn't benefit from community policing. In fact, community policing is a core philosophy of many police forces and being encouraged around the country. NYPD is in its communities and so on. So I think that could be an option, but that's what we're kind of discussing now.
And a big concern of mine is if we removed the regional police, more people are going to
I think we lost you.
themselves.
Say that again, Rhonda. If we remove the regional police, what?
If we remove the regional police, a concern of mine is more people will get guns to protect their personal households. And I believe that there could be another issue coming into play here, more crime, accidents, etc.
Well, yeah, I don't know how to, I mean, I think that's been established that, you know, people's right to buy and bear arms, so I think, you know, how that dynamic plays with whether we have regional or state police coverage, we would certainly have police coverage regardless. We're not, I mean, I keep hearing getting rid of the police. We're not getting rid of the police. We might be changing up coverage of the borough by, you know, switching police forces. We may or may not, but we're not getting rid of police. So
I understand we're not getting rid of police, but I really do believe that you're going to cause it would cause concern and panic amongst a lot of people, and that may be one of the outcomes is more people are going to have guns in their hands, which could be a whole nother problem. I do agree with the person that spoke earlier, that gentleman that spoke earlier about laying this out, giving us some options and putting it to vote, let the people vote.
I do think we had a comment from the audience, Matt Hensel, who asked whether we can even do that legally. So I think that's something we have to investigate. It might not be an option, it may be an option, but we have to investigate that.
Thank you very much, Brandon.
Welcome, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else on the Zoom wishes to speak? Okay, if there's no one else on the Zoom, okay. All right, thank you all very much. Anything else from the audience? If there's nothing else from the audience, I'd like to thank you all very much for your time and for this discussion. And we, as Robin, as you stated, we'll make sure that in our next discussion, we'll find some way of making sure that it goes out into the public in a different way.
Okay, and just real quick, we still have the community, with our police. I get phone calls that, hey, your light's on in your truck, or you passed by, and, they look out for us. So that's still happening. We don't need to go back to our little 3 police department to have that. We still have it with our regional police. They look out for us, and they make phone calls.
Okay.
And I know they do it to a lot of businesses. So we have that with them.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you all very much.
They look out for us.
Thank you all very much. Thank you very much for your time. Meeting adjourned. I'm sorry, I'm not adjourning the meeting. I would like to go into an executive session. I know it's late and I just need about 10 minutes to discuss personnel. After that, then we'll come on back in and we'll adjourn the meeting. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, personnel and litigation. Okay?
Rob.
We have to,
You get the community to come. I've got 38 years of it here. This is the most people I've seen here, except for one other time. For the damn life of me, I can't remember when.
Yeah.
When we come to a meeting here on a Monday night,
Always the
you can
same
ask Stacy.
people. Always the
We can
same
sit here and say,
Always
Mike is
the
here.
You can see it because you keep
Heidi's
saying I'm
here.
never here. I'm here.
What?
I'm getting bent out of shape over it. I've had people come up to me tell me I'm never at the meeting. I'm not. She's always at the meeting. She's here. I'm 5 years more than you are. Yeah.